This section is restricted. VIP guests only. The words slice through the warm afternoon breeze like a blade. A 19-year-old black boy freezes mid-step, his book still tucked under his arm, eyes searching for understanding in faces that refuse to meet his gaze. Behind him, the Caribbean Sea stretches endlessly, turquoise, breathtaking, indifferent. But inside him, something cracks and begins to harden into steel. The Sea of Roses wasn't just a cruise ship. It was a floating palace, a 17-deck cathedral of marble columns, crystal chandeliers, and infinity pools that mirrored the sky. Only 800 passengers sailed at any given time, each paying upward of $43,000 for 12 days of what the brochure called unparalleled elegance. And on Deck 7, in the forward VIP lounge reserved exclusively for Diamond Suite guests, 19-year-old Marcus Reed had just been told he didn't belong. The crew member who said it was a man in his mid-30s, broad-shouldered and bronze-skinned from years at sea. His name tag read Stefan Keller, Guest Experience Coordinator. His smile was professional, his tone polite, but his eyes told a different story. "I'm sorry, sir," Stefan repeated, stepping slightly closer, "but this area is reserved for first-class VIP passengers. If you'd like, I can escort you back to the promenade deck. There's a wonderful cafe there." Marcus didn't move. He held up his key card, black with gold lettering. Diamond Suite 712, Marcus Reed. "I am first class," Marcus said quietly. Stefan's eyes flicked to the card, then back to Marcus. His smile didn't change. "I see. May I scan that for verification?" Marcus handed it over. Stefan swiped it against his tablet. The screen blinked green. Diamond Suite confirmed. Full VIP access granted. For a moment, Stefan just stared at the screen. Then he handed the card back with a tight-lipped nod. "My apologies. Enjoy your afternoon." But he didn't leave. He lingered near the bar, whispering to another crew member. A woman with blonde hair pulled into a sleek bun. She glanced toward Marcus, then quickly looked away. Marcus sat down in one of the cushioned lounge chairs near the glass railing. He opened his book, Between the World and Me, by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and tried to focus, but the weight of eyes on him made the words blur. Across the lounge, a couple in their 60s sat sipping champagne. The woman leaned toward her husband and whispered just loud enough for Marcus to hear. "I don't understand how they let just anyone up here anymore." Her husband shrugged. "Money talks, I suppose. Doesn't mean they fit in." Marcus's jaw tightened. He turned the page without reading it. 3 months earlier, Marcus had received a letter that changed his life. It arrived in a cream-colored envelope with an embossed seal, the logo of the Global Youth Equity Foundation, a non-profit that awarded full scholarships to students from underserved communities who demonstrated exceptional academic achievement and leadership. Marcus had been selected as one of 12 recipients worldwide. The prize? A full-ride scholarship to Oxford University, plus a 12-day luxury cruise aboard the Sea of Roses to attend a private leadership summit hosted by the foundation's founder, Dr. Elena Cross. Marcus's grandmother, Lorraine Reed, had cried when he told her. She'd raised him in a 2-bedroom apartment in South Memphis after his parents died in a car accident when he was 7. She worked double shifts at a hospital for 18 years to keep him fed, clothed, and focused on school. "You earned this, baby," she'd said, holding his face in her hands. "Don't let nobody make you feel like you didn't." Now, sitting in the VIP lounge with judging eyes all around him, Marcus replayed her words like a prayer. But Stefan Keller wasn't done. 10 minutes later, Stefan returned with a silver tray carrying a single glass of water. He set it down in front of Marcus with exaggerated care. "Compliments of the house," Stefan said. Marcus looked up. "I didn't order anything." "I know," Stefan replied smoothly. "But we like to make sure all our guests stay hydrated, especially those who aren't used to this kind of heat." The words hung in the air like smoke. Marcus stared at him. "What's that supposed to mean?" Stefan smiled. "Just that the sun can be intense up here. Wouldn't want you to feel overwhelmed." A woman nearby chuckled softly. Marcus felt heat rise to his face, not from the sun, but from humiliation. He stood up slowly, closed his book, and walked toward the exit. He didn't look back, but as he passed through the glass doors, He pulled out his phone and opened an app he'd been given during orientation at the foundation. It was called Sentinel X, and Dr. Cross had explained it during their first meeting. "This is more than a reporting tool," she'd said. "It's a verification system. If you ever experience discrimination, bias, or abuse of power, you document it here. The system uses biometric analysis, voice recognition, and environmental data to verify your report. And once verified, it triggers an automatic review." Marcus had nodded, not really thinking he'd ever need it. Now, standing on the promenade deck with his hands shaking, he opened the app. He tapped New Incident Report and began typing. Location: Sea of Roses, Deck 7, VIP Lounge. Date sack time: March 14th, 2025, 2:47 p.m. Incident: Type: racial discrimination, verbal humiliation. Description: crew member Stephen Keller questioned my access to VIP area despite valid keycard, made derogatory comments implying I didn't belong. Other passengers openly mocked me. He attached a screenshot of his Diamond Suite keycard confirmation and hit Submit. The app processed for 3 seconds. Then a message appeared. Incident verified. Biometric data captured. Sentinel protocol activated. Alert sent to Oversight Network. Marcus stared at the screen. He didn't know what that meant, but something deep inside him whispered, "This isn't over." Far away, in a glass office overlooking Lake Geneva, Dr. Elena Cross's tablet buzzed. She glanced at the notification, read the summary, and her expression hardened. She picked up her phone and dialed a secure line. "We have a Class 1 incident on the Sea of Roses," she said calmly. "Subject: Marcus Reed. Perpetrator: Stefan Keller. I need a full crew audit within the hour." The voice on the other end asked, "Do we ground the ship?" Elena paused, watching the sun dip toward the horizon. "Not yet," she said. "But prepare the protocol. If this escalates, we won't just change the course. We'll change the captain." That evening, Marcus skipped dinner. He stayed in his suite, a sprawling 2-room sanctuary with floor-to-ceiling windows, a private balcony, and a marble bathroom bigger than his grandmother's entire kitchen. But none of it felt luxurious anymore. It felt like a trap. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. The Sentinel X app showed a single update. Status: under review. Oversight Network activated. Estimated response time: 18-24 hours. Marcus didn't know what that meant. He didn't know who was watching, who cared, or if anything would actually change. All he knew was that he'd pressed a button, and now he was waiting. A soft knock came at the door. Marcus hesitated, then stood and opened it. Standing in the hallway was a young woman in a crisp white uniform with gold epaulets. Her name tag read, Amara Osei, Junior Guest Relations Officer. "Mr. Reed?" she asked gently. "May I come in?" Marcus stepped aside. Amara entered, holding a tablet and a small leather folder. She didn't sit until Marcus gestured toward the couch. "I wanted to personally apologize for what happened this afternoon," she began. "I reviewed the incident report, and I want you to know that we take these matters very seriously." Marcus crossed his arms. "Do you?" Amara's expression didn't falter. "I do, but I'm not the one you need to hear it from." She opened the folder and handed Marcus a handwritten letter on Sea of Roses stationery. "Dear Mr. Reed, it has come to my attention that you experienced unacceptable treatment from a member of our crew today. Please accept my sincere apologies. We are investigating the matter thoroughly, and appropriate action will be taken. I would like to invite you to dine with me tomorrow evening in the captain's private salon so that I may personally ensure your experience aboard the Sea of Roses reflects the respect and dignity you deserve. With deepest regard, Captain Jonathan Sterling." Marcus read it twice. It sounded sincere, but words on paper didn't erase what had happened. "Will Stephen Keller be fired?" Marcus asked bluntly. Amara paused. "That decision is above my level, but I can tell you that he's been suspended pending a full investigation." "Suspended," Marcus repeated. "Not removed, just paused." Amara's eyes softened. "I know it doesn't feel like enough, but the captain doesn't make these decisions lightly. He's waiting for the full report from the Oversight Network." Marcus looked up. "What Oversight Network?" Amara hesitated, then leaned forward. "The Global Youth Equity Foundation doesn't just give scholarships, Mr. Reed. They monitor every space their recipients enter. Hotels, universities, airports, cruise ships, everywhere. And when something goes wrong, they don't just file complaints. They activate consequences. Marcus's heart began to race. What kind of consequences? Amara didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "Have you ever heard of the Sentinel Accord?" Marcus shook his head. "It's a binding agreement," Amara explained. "Any company that partners with the Foundation, airlines, hotels, cruise lines, agrees to immediate transparency and accountability when discrimination is verified. If they don't comply, they lose their certification, and without certification, they lose access to ethical investment networks worth billions." Marcus stared at her. "So, the ship could lose money because of me?" "Not because of you," Amara said firmly. "Because of what was done to you." She stood to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth, Mr. Reed, I'm glad you reported it. Most people don't." After she left, Marcus sat alone in the dark, watching the ocean roll past his window. Somewhere below, in the ship's operations center, Captain Jonathan Sterling stood before a wall of monitors. His chief of staff, a sharp-eyed woman named Claire Dubois, stood beside him holding a tablet. "The Foundation's audit team just sent their preliminary findings," Claire said. "They've identified 17 incidents over the past 9 months involving black and brown passengers being questioned, relocated, or denied access to VIP areas despite valid credentials." Sterling's jaw tightened. 17? "Yes, sir. None were formally reported because passengers didn't know how, but Sentinel X cross-referenced crew logs, passenger complaints, and security footage. The pattern is undeniable." Sterling turned toward her. "And Stefan Keller? He's been flagged in 4 of those incidents. Always subtle, always deniable, but consistent." Sterling exhaled slowly. "Get him off my ship." Claire blinked. "Sir, we're 3 days from port. If we terminate him now, the crew union will—" "I don't care," Sterling interrupted. "He's done. Draft the termination letter tonight. I'll sign it in the morning." Claire nodded and left. Sterling stood alone, staring at the radar screen. The Sea of Roses was currently sailing northwest toward Grand Cayman, but his mind was elsewhere. He'd been captain for 11 years. He'd sailed through hurricanes, medical emergencies, and diplomatic incidents. But he'd never faced this, a quiet, systemic rot that had been growing beneath his command, invisible until a 19-year-old boy pressed a button and made it impossible to ignore. The next morning, Marcus woke to find a silver tray outside his door. On it was a handwritten note. "Good morning, Mr. Reed. Breakfast is served. Today, the sea belongs to you. Captain Sterling." Marcus smiled for the first time in 24 hours. But across the ship, in the crew quarters, Stefan Keller was packing his bags. His hands shook as he stuffed uniforms into a duffel. His supervisor had woken him at dawn with a single envelope. Inside was a termination letter, effective immediately. Reason: violation of the Sentinel Accord. Discriminatory conduct verified by independent audit. Stefan tried to protest, tried to claim it was a misunderstanding, but the supervisor cut him off. "You're done, Stefan. A helicopter will pick you up at noon. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Now, sitting on the edge of his bunk, Stefan stared at his phone. He opened a group chat with other crew members and typed, "They're firing me because some kid complained. This is insane." One reply came back. "What did you do?" Stefan didn't answer. He just threw his phone across the room. Meanwhile, in the ship's main atrium, passengers gathered for the daily briefing. Captain Sterling stood at the podium, calm and commanding in his white uniform. "Good morning, everyone. I hope you're enjoying your voyage. I wanted to take a moment to remind you that the Sea of Roses is committed to providing a safe, respectful, and inclusive environment for all guests." He paused, letting the words settle. "To that end, we've made some personnel changes. One crew member has been removed from duty due to conduct that did not meet our standards. We will continue to uphold the values that make this ship not just luxurious, but honorable." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some passengers nodded approvingly. Others whispered skeptically. But in the back of the room, standing quietly near a marble column, Marcus Reed watched. And for the first time since boarding, he felt like maybe, just maybe, his silence had been heard. Have you ever been told you didn't belong somewhere, even when you had every right to be there? Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Because stories like Marcus's are happening everywhere, and silence shouldn't be the only option. The captain's private salon was nothing like Marcus expected. It wasn't ostentatious or dripping with gold. It was intimate. A small room with dark wood paneling, soft candlelight, and a single table set for two overlooking the ocean. Captain Jonathan Sterling stood when Marcus entered. He was in his late 50s, silver-haired and weathered by years at sea, but his eyes were kind. "Mr. Reed," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you for joining me." Marcus shook it cautiously. "Thank you for inviting me." They sat. A server poured water, then quietly disappeared. Sterling leaned forward, folding his hands on the table. "I owe you an apology, not just on behalf of my crew, but as the person responsible for everything that happens on this ship. What Stefan Keller did to you was unacceptable, and the fact that it happened at all means I failed." Marcus didn't know how to respond. He'd expected corporate speak, polished deflection, not this. "I've been sailing for 32 years, Sterling continued. "I've commanded 5 ships. I thought I knew my crew. But this audit showed me that I didn't know them as well as I thought. Or maybe I just didn't want to see what was right in front of me." Marcus found his voice. "What happens now?" Sterling met his gaze. "Stefan Keller has been terminated. He'll be airlifted off the ship when we reach Grand Cayman tomorrow. But that's not enough. The audit found 17 incidents over 9 months. 17 passengers who were treated the way you were. Most of them didn't report it because they didn't think anyone would care." Marcus felt a knot tighten in his chest. 17? Sterling nodded. "We're implementing mandatory bias training for every crew member. We're revising our hiring protocols. And we're installing a direct reporting system linked to Sentinel-X so that no passenger ever has to wonder if their voice will be heard." He paused, then added, "But none of that changes what you experienced. And for that, I am truly sorry." For the first time since boarding the ship, Marcus felt something loosen inside him. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement. Someone in power had listened. Someone had acted. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Sterling asked, "Tell me about yourself, Marcus. What are you studying at Oxford?" Marcus hesitated, then smiled. "International human rights law." Sterling laughed. Not mockingly, but with genuine admiration. "Of course you are. The world doesn't stand a chance." After dinner, Marcus walked back to his suite along the promenade deck. The night air was warm, and the stars stretched endlessly above. He pulled out his phone and opened Sentinel-X. A new notification was waiting. "Incident resolution confirmed. Subject, Stefan Keller. Terminated. Audit expansion. 17 additional cases under review. System impact, Sea of Roses flagged for industry-wide compliance review." Marcus stared at the screen. He'd thought pressing that button was just about him, but it had become something bigger. It had exposed a pattern. It had forced accountability. It had changed the course, not just of the ship, but of an entire system. He texted his grandmother. "Grandma, you were right. I earned this, and I'm not letting anyone take it from me." Her reply came seconds later. "That's my boy. Now go enjoy that ocean. You paid for it with every hard day we ever had." Marcus smiled, pocketed his phone, and kept walking. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, back on land, Marcus received an email from Dr. Elena Cross. The subject line read, "You changed more than you know." He opened it. "Dear Marcus, because of your courage to report what happened aboard the Sea of Roses, the Global Youth Equity Foundation has launched a full industry review of luxury cruise lines. 3 additional companies have been flagged for discriminatory practices. 2 have already signed the Sentinel Accord. 1 has refused and lost $920 million in ethical investment partnerships as a result. But more importantly, 18 other passengers who experienced similar treatment have now come forward. Their cases are being heard. Their voices are being amplified, and none of it would have happened if you had stayed silent. You didn't just stand up for yourself, Marcus. You stood up for all of them, with gratitude and respect. Dr. Elena Cross. Marcus read the email 3 times, Then he forwarded it to his grandmother with a single sentence. This is what justice looks like. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a lecture hall at Oxford, delivering a presentation to 200 students and faculty members. The title projected behind him read, "Sentinel Systems and the Future of Accountability: How Technology Can Amplify Marginalized Voices." He spoke calmly, confidently about his experience on the Sea of Roses. He talked about silence as strategy, about data as evidence, about systems that could be built to protect people who had no power to protect themselves. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. A professor in the front row stood and asked, "Do you think technology alone can solve discrimination?" Marcus shook his head. "No. Technology just makes the truth harder to ignore. But it still takes people. People willing to look at that truth and do something about it. Captain Sterling could have dismissed my report. He could have protected his crew member, but he didn't. That's the part technology can't do. That's still on us." The room fell silent. Then, slowly, more applause. After the lecture, Marcus walked across campus, past Gothic spires and ancient stone walls. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Amara Osei, the junior officer who had visited him that night on the ship. "Saw your lecture online. You were incredible. Just wanted to let you know. I got promoted. I'm now Senior Guest Relations Officer, and I'm leading the new equity training program for our entire fleet. Thank you for starting this." Marcus smiled and typed back, "You didn't need me to start it. You just needed permission to care out loud." That evening, Marcus sat in his dorm room, staring at the Sentinel X app on his phone. He hadn't opened it in months. But now he tapped it. The interface had been updated. A new feature appeared at the top. Sentinel Network, 4,200 active users, 89 verified incidents, 34 companies under review, 12 policy changes enacted. Marcus scrolled through the reports. A black woman denied a hotel upgrade. A Latino teenager removed from a first-class lounge. An elderly Asian couple ignored by restaurant staff. Each one verified. Each one acted upon. He closed the app and whispered to himself, "Not one more person." And somewhere, across the ocean on another ship, another young person pressed a button, and the system listened. If you've ever felt invisible in a space you belonged, drop a comment and tell us, what city are you watching from? Because Marcus's story isn't just about a cruise, it's about every place where dignity should never be a luxury.